Hi everyone. So from today we are going to start a very important section of your 12th syllabus, which is also quite high weightage for NEET. So it's the last organisms and populations, right? So ecology basically is what we will be studying in this series. So what is ecology? To understand ecology, it is very important to understand the organization that happens in the living world. The beginning of it is pretty basic, which I'm sure all of you know. So we start with genes, right? Genes are your basic blocks which make up your constitution, right? It gives you your phenotype. Now, genes are a component of the cells. Cells, as we know, given by the cell theory, which was proposed by Schleiden, Schwann, and Robert Virchow. It gives you three postulates that all living things are made up of cells. All living beings are made of cells. Next is cells are the basic structural and functional unit of life. And the third is omnicellular e cellulae, which basically translates to new cells arise from pre-existing cells. These three postulates laid the foundation of what we know as the cell theory, and this gives us the basic concepts of the cell, right? This is something we've been studying in biology since I think the 8th grade. Now, cells, as you know, make up tissues. So, tissues are specialized cells or differentiated cells, because we are talking about 12th grade. We'll use the word differentiated, right? So, differentiation means a cell gets the ability to perform a specialized function, that is differentiation of a cell, right? So for example, neurons make up nerves, right? Now these cells and tissues of different types come up and make organs. So for example, our brain. Many organs like that. So the brain, the spinal cord will make up your central nervous system. So they are your organ systems. And when multiple of these organ systems, functional, efficient organ systems come together, we have an organism. So like in humans, we have a total of 10 organ systems, right? The moment we come to the concept of an organism, we have to discuss the concept of species, right? So Ernst Mayr, almost during the time when Darwin's theories were coming up, it's known as the period of modern synthesis in biology. That's when he gave us the biological species concept. So before the biological species concept, species was supposed to be a group of organisms with similar morphology, similar physiology, and similar physical structure. However, with the biological species concept, we get the definition of species as a group of morphologically, anatomically, and physiologically similar organisms capable of interbreeding. This is the addition, right? To produce fertile offsprings. So initially the definition was up till here, right? The problem with that is, in that case, let's talk about dog breeds. A German Shepherd looks so different from a Rottweiler to a Siberian Husky, They are not morphologically similar. Maybe anatomically and physiologically similar, but not morphologically similar. So, do you say that they belong to different species? No. Right? Again, a centipede and millipede. All of them look so similar, or butterflies that look similar. Do you call them to be the same species? Again, no. So then the definition of species boils down to the fact that these organisms that you say belong to the same species should be able to interbreed and give fertile offsprings. The offsprings should not be sterile, right? So this was the biological species concept. Building on the biological species concept, so now the moment we get into the concepts of ecology, we discuss a population. So population is basically, let's draw a line here so that we can write all the definitions together. So population is number of organisms of similar species living in a specific area at a specific time. So now, it's important to understand that population as a concept is spatial and temporal. So what does that mean? It means that organisms of the same species we'll have to consider within a specific area and a specific time. So let's take an example. So for example, let's take this building, which is the TCC Institute, right? So now, in this institute, if we talk about population, we have to first specify which species, human population or cat population. Human population will be 30, but cat population will be 0. Similarly, if we talk about the time, so in the TCC building, at this point in time, 1:30 in the afternoon, there are 30 people, but 1:30 in the night, there will be 0 amount of people because nobody will be working. So with time also the population of this building changes. Again, if I extend the area, if I talk about not just the TCC building but the whole of Vishalnagar, then again at any given time the population will vary. The building now has 30 people, 30 humans. But in all of Vishalnagar, again the number of humans will be more. So it's very easy to understand, right? So with space, with time, and also depending on the species, populations, the term population will keep changing its meaning. Now, what is a community then? Community refers to all species living in one area, right? So obviously, if I talk about Vishalnagar or India, let's say, India doesn't only have humans, it has dogs, cats, birds, different kinds of birds, plants and whatnot, right? Animals, different kinds of aquatic animals, lower animals, higher animals, all of them together then forms a community, right? It's a much smaller area. So in a smaller region, because within a community, like in a humanitarian community, in an anthropological community, humans interact with each other, right? So if you consider population to be just your family members, community is everybody living in your society. Similarly, in an ecological concept, in the concept of an ecosystem, a community is all the living organisms in a specific area that interact with each other. Okay. Now, obviously in a specific area, you will not only have living things, you will have abiotic factors too that will directly or indirectly affect the life of this community. For example, the amount of sunlight, the amount of rainfall, the quality of the soil, the quality of the water, the temperature, all of this is going to affect and decide what kind of organisms live in a particular region. So if it is a desert region versus Antarctica versus the tropics that we are in India, the kind of people we have, so amount of melanin in the human body, amount of hair on the human body, bone structure, amount of blood will vary. The kind of animals we have, street dogs in India almost have no fur. However, in Siberia, you have huskies there, right? So dogs there have thick double coats. Why? Because of the temperature difference, right? So that then becomes an ecosystem. So ecosystem is an interactive body of living communities and abiotic factors. Right? And the study of ecosystem is what we call ecology. So let's say if you want to classify ecosystems, you can very broadly have terrestrial, arboreal and aquatic ecosystem. Organisms living in the water will be so different from organisms living on land. Why? Because all abiotic factors have changed. They live in water. So their mode of respiration will be different from us, if not anything else, correct? So ecosystem is then a region or an interacting body of organisms, living organisms and their abiotic factors, which will decide their physiology, which will decide their morphology, which will decide their anatomy, correct? When we study ecosystem in detail, that is the subject that we call ecology, which we will be discussing in the further coming videos. Now, what is then biosphere? All ecosystems on earth together will form biosphere. So, I am sure you know this concept. Earth has a hydrosphere, right? An atmosphere and a lithosphere. So, hydro is water, atmos is air and litho is soil. The point where all three of them coexist is where you find your biosphere. That is where life is possible, correct? So biosphere is the region on earth where life is possible. I hope this much was clear. This is the foundation to ecology and very important definitions that you will need throughout the 2 years that you will study biology now and going ahead as well if you decide to pursue biology. So I hope this much was clear. We will continue with this series. See you in the next video.